I used to think that quitting social media as a musician and podcaster was career suicide. But after I finally did it, something surprising happened. I didn't disappear. I actually started feeling more visible, not to an algorithm, but to the people who truly care about my work. This episode is about how you can build a thriving creative life without chasing likes, followers, or battling the algorithm for visibility. And right off the bat, I want you to know that I'm not throwing shade on people who love social media. Some people have somehow cracked the code and thrive on it. If that's you, more power to you. I'm not trying to convince anyone to quit. I'm just saying maybe you can. I should also include the caveat that I use Blue Sky, which I recently joined, but I'm not using it to promote my work, at least not right now. However, I quit the social media platforms that are driven by algorithms and owned by crazy people. Honestly, I had just had enough, and even though I wasn't really using them as a consumer, I hesitated to quit for a long time because I thought I needed to use them to promote my work. How would I be able to promote a concert or a tour or a new album? How would I get people to join my mailing list or watch a video or listen to my podcast? I felt stuck, trapped even. But the more I thought about it, I realized that the only way to be visible on those platforms is if you dedicate serious time to creating endless content for them to keep their viewers engaged for free, or pay them to show your content to users as advertisements. And neither of those options appealed to me. First of all, I don't want to spend my time creating content for social media. I'd rather do other things with my time. And to be clear, this was not an easy decision for me. I went back and forth debating this with myself for a long time. Part of me was like, you should feel lucky to live at a time when it's possible to reach so many people from your computer. And I can see that viewpoint. It is kind of amazing. But the most meaningful connections I've had have not been through social media. They've been through people replying to my newsletter, or a conversation with an audience member after a show, or someone who bought my music on Bandcamp and wrote me a message to say how much they enjoyed it. Or here in the comments on YouTube. And Patreon. Can't forget my patrons. Patreon is an amazing place for feeling that connection. No amount of likes or follows can compare to the experience of someone telling you they resonated with something you made. Another part of what turned me off about social media was the psychological impact that comes from long-term use. It's easy for me to get sucked into scrolling for an unknowable amount of time, and I see this with friends and family. We zone out as our thumbs flip past endless hits of dopamine, which we forget almost as soon as we've seen it. When we're scrolling on social media, over time the prefrontal cortex becomes less active and our scrolling becomes more and more a habit we do on autopilot, in a passive state with less awareness. So maybe it's possible to technically reach millions of people with our endless social media posts or a savvy ad campaign masquerading as a post, but to what degree are we really reaching them? I'm looking for a more meaningful connection, and I think the audience is too. No one likes to be advertised at. Yet somehow we have to let people know about what we're doing. It's just a reality. Not just because we want to earn a living from our work, but I think if we're not sharing our work, we're not completing the cycle that gives the work purpose. It needs a beholder. Now, as far as me personally quitting social media, I'm in a different position than someone who's just starting out. I mean, I've been playing professionally for 35 years. My first album came out 20 years ago. I'm not bragging, but I've been touring internationally since the early aughts when I lived in New York. And I've been building an audience for my music for a long time, so I already have a newsletter and a website and a lot of the things that I'm going to suggest that people do instead of social media. Many of you might be similar to me in not starting from zero, but even if you are, this is still an option for you. And when we talk about building an audience, it raises the question, how much of an audience do we really need? I've never expected to have a huge audience. I play mostly at jazz clubs and at an occasional small theater, or sometimes it's a festival and the venues are bigger, but I'm used to playing for small crowds, and I actually prefer it. I like the intimacy of it. My feeling is that as long as enough people buy tickets or buy my music so that I can keep doing it, that's really all that matters to me. In her book Mood Machine, Liz Pelly mentions that not all business has to scale, and art is not about constant growth. Even economist Herman Daly feels that our obsession with growth for the economy overall is unhealthy and unsustainable. I'm not saying that we should aim low, but focus rather on feeling connected to your audience no matter the size. Focus on paying attention to the fans you already have instead of always putting your energy into getting more. If what you do becomes popular, be grateful, but I don't think growth should be the goal. Instead, aim for sustainability. Being able to do this at all is a gift. If you're thinking about quitting social media, or even if you aren't, these are some things every artist or creative professional should be doing. First, if possible, think locally, at least in the beginning. And I say if possible because not everyone lives in a place where a venue exists for what you do. That said, you might need to be the person to find it, or maybe even start it yourself. Connecting with other artists in your community is key. Create a support network of creative people around you. Collaborate. Don't be shy. Reach out to other artists in your area who you admire and do something together. 9 times out of 10, they'll say yes. Go to open mics, jam sessions, workshops, conferences, and industry meetings that make sense for your field. I love the Creative Mornings series that designer Tina Roth Eisenberg started in New York. And yes, there's no shortage of creative people there, but it's spread all over the place. So maybe there's one where you live, or maybe you could start it. I'm sure people would thank you. But focus on doing things in your community. Be on the lookout for opportunities locally. Play house concerts, find unusual places for intimate art showings. Organize a day of open house studio shows with other artists. If you're a writer, get in touch with libraries and bookstores to set up a reading. Connect with local media, newspapers, radio. In some cases, there are even local podcasts. Reach out to all of them. That is, if they still exist. I mean, legacy media is struggling, but in a lot of places, community magazines and local podcasts have popped up to fill the void. But do the work for them. Have a press kit. Tell your story. They love stories. Everybody loves stories. If you're not a great writer, use Claude AI to make it better. Just make sure it's all true. Use photos. Humans connect with faces. Maybe you need to hire a photographer, or maybe you have a friend with a good camera that could take your picture. I actually took my own picture with my phone on a tripod and ended up using that as a promo pic. It's amazing what you can do with Lightroom. But you're also going to need images for this next part, the website. You should have a website that serves as a portal into everything you do. It doesn't need to be complicated. These days, there are so many ways to make a website. I actually used to design websites for a living, and it's a little embarrassing to admit, but I recently created a new website for myself using Hostinger. I think that's how you pronounce it, Hostinger. Which after a lot of research, I found to be the easiest and most affordable option. I kind of got to the point where I hated making websites. I mean, I love doing graphic design, but somehow websites presented so many issues with all the different browsers people use, and a website is never done. So I prefer print work that becomes a physical thing I can hold and has a definite finish line. But anyway, Hostinger was incredibly easy, and honestly, I could have made it look nicer, but overall, I'm happy with it. And the price was right. And actually, I have an affiliate link in the description if you're interested that gives you 20% off. You can also just use the code KEEPTHEFLOW, all one word, at checkout. But of all of the things I'm suggesting, what I think is the most important thing you should do, create a newsletter. Feature this prominently on your website, make it easy to sign up, and make it something people look forward to getting in their inbox. I also recommend naming the newsletter. Mine is called The Interval and is centered around what's inspiring me and what I'm doing. It can feel really daunting if you're thinking about starting one, especially if you don't have much going on. We all go through periods like that. Really, there's no pressure to make yourself look busier than you are. It doesn't need to be much, although I go overboard sometimes. I really enjoy the process of making it, kind of like putting out a mini magazine. The most important thing is that it's sincere. The people who sign up for a newsletter want to hear from you. But like I said earlier, no one likes to be advertised at. But thinking about the newsletter as a way to really share with your audience in a way that lets them know that they are a valued part of your creative life, that is the way to create true fans. And if we jump back to the think locally part, as you're doing all this locally and in person, you need to be letting them know about your mailing list. If you're a performer, you have to combat the impulse to run and hide when your set is over and try to talk to as many people as possible. Don't be obnoxious. Don't lead with, "Hi, sign my mailing list." At some point when it feels like the conversation is ending, say, "Oh, I just remembered, I started a mailing list. Would you mind joining it?" Or, "Hey, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be doing this again. Why don't you sign my mailing list so I can let you know about it?" Have a QR code saved in your phone that they can scan, and it'll take them either to your website or to a landing page to sign up for your newsletter. You might have heard people talk about being consistent when you send the newsletter, which is probably a good idea. That's not me. I send it when it's convenient for me. After all, we're artists, right? Consistency doesn't really suit me, but you do you. Right now, I use MailChimp to send out my newsletters, and I'm not at the limit for the free plan, but I think if I were to start over, I would pick MailerLite as a more long-term solution. And maybe I shouldn't say that. I haven't tried it firsthand, but I've heard good things. Now, I'm not going to get too deep on how to sell your work, but I think it's worth mentioning that you should make use of platforms like Bandcamp or Etsy or even Patreon as ways to sell your work. And there are others, but for now I want to just focus on these because there is a community building aspect to all three. If you're a musician, Bandcamp is a no-brainer. They have tens of millions of monthly users, and there's a social component to how the site works. Listeners can see what other people are listening to and read what they say about their favorite tracks. Artists can recommend other artists' music and even provide an option for listeners to sign up for your mailing list. And honestly, most of my subscribers come from Bandcamp. Etsy can also be an opportunity to build a mailing list, but you would have to use third-party extensions. They don't have a built-in feature for that, but they do allow sellers and customers to connect and communicate with other customers. Patreon has evolved into a platform where you can follow artists for free or choose a subscription tier, but they also have retail features for selling merch. And it also has a community aspect, which, like Bandcamp and Etsy, is an effective way to communicate with your audience. And they're not algorithmic. There's no digital overlord deciding who gets to see your posts. Another thing that I think is important for connection, since we're talking about places to sell our work, physical goods. Yes, the overhead is much lower for digital products, but the connection people feel when a physical product is in their hands is on a much higher level. It's an awesome feeling when you get that album or sticker pack or handmade print in the mail. Seeing an Instagram post you like or finding a new album on your streaming service just can't compare with having a tactile experience with an object. So invest in making that experience memorable for your fans. Okay, so looking back over all these suggestions, think locally, connect with creatives in your community, reach out to local media, do the work for them with a kick-ass press kit, have a website and a newsletter. All of these things are about connection. But I think this is a more real kind of connection. The next phase is to apply all of these ideas to other places. You can start off close to home and gradually expand, or you can pick somewhere you would really like to visit. When my wife and I lived in New York, she's also a pianist, if you didn't know that. Anyway, we would approach venues in Connecticut or New Jersey and then Philadelphia, Baltimore, DC, to the point where we were able to tour both the East and West coasts of the US and Canada. It didn't happen overnight, but everywhere we went, it was just getting in touch with radio stations, in newspapers, and talking to people after the show, it was all the same stuff. So treat everywhere you go as if it's an extension of your community. Okay, so the last thing I'll say relates back to the question of how much audience do we really need? Rather than spending all of our energy on getting more fans, focus on appreciating the fans we have. Focus on making them feel appreciated. Word of mouth is also a powerful tool for building an audience, maybe the most powerful. And Patreon is a valuable thing to have when someone discovers your work and just can't get enough. Those are the people who are most likely to spread the word about you. And there's a chance they might even send them to your Patreon page. So take care of your fans, because they're the reason you get to keep doing this, and they can spread the word for you in a way that has much more impact than anything you could put on social media. If you're not ready to quit social media, hey, no pressure. But you might want to check out the episode I did about how we can get more control over our social media use and learn to waste time wisely, which you can click on here. Thanks so much for hanging out. I'll catch you in the next episode. Until then, keep the flow.